My sister begged for temporary shelter during a kitchen renovation, but 2 months later, she moved her husband and kids in and declared my home was hers. She thought family loyalty would silence me. She didn't know I'd already found the foreclosure papers and planned her public ruin. This is where the story truly begins, and you won't want to miss what happens. Make sure you're subscribed to see it through to the end. We're always curious. Where in the world are you all watching from today? Let us know in the comments. The migraine was a living thing, pulsing behind my left eye with the rhythmic thud of a war drum. It was the kind of pain that made light feel like a physical assault, the kind that demanded absolute silence and a dark room. I was lying on the chaise lounge in my study, a cool compress over my eyes, listening to the soothing ticking of the grandfather clock in the hall. This house was my sanctuary. I had bought the Victorian property in a state of near ruin 5 years ago, using every cent of my savings and the modest inheritance our grandmother had left me, and not my sister. I spent my weekends stripping paint, restoring original crown molding, and sourcing period-correct fixtures. As a historical archivist, preservation wasn't just my job, it was my soul. I needed order. I needed history to be respected. I needed quiet. The silence was shattered by the shrill, demanding ring of my phone. I groaned, reaching out blindly to fumble for the device on the side table. I squinted at the screen. Bianca. My thumb hovered over the decline button. I knew I should press it. I knew nothing good ever came from answering Bianca's calls after 8:00 p.m. on a Tuesday. But the conditioning of a lifetime is a hard thing to break. I was the older sister. I was the responsible one, the steady rock against which Bianca's chaotic waves crashed. I slid the icon to answer. Hello. Margaret, thank God. Bianca's voice was high-pitched, breathless, and laced with that frantic edge she used when she needed money or a favor. You have to help me. It's a disaster. A total disaster. I sat up slowly, the room spinning slightly. Bianca, please lower your voice. I have a migraine. What is it? It's the house, the kitchen renovation, she wailed. The contractor just called. They found mold behind the cabinets. Black mold, Margaret. Toxic. They have to rip everything out. The walls, the subfloor, everything. I rubbed my temple. I'm sorry to hear that. That sounds expensive. It's not just expensive, it's dangerous, she insisted. We can't stay here. The fumes, the spores. Think of the children. Victoria has that little cough and Connor is so sensitive. We can't breathe this air. I closed my eyes, sensing the trap closing around me, but too tired to run. So, you're going to a hotel. A hotel? Are you crazy? She let out a sharp, incredulous laugh. Do you know how much a hotel for 4 people costs? Plus, Adam needs high-speed internet for his trading, and the kids need space. We can't survive in a single room for 3 weeks. 3 weeks, I repeated, my voice dry. Maximum, she promised. Just until the remediation is done and the drywall is back up. Please, Margaret, you have that massive house all to yourself. You have 3 empty bedrooms. It's just me and the kids for the first few days while Adam sorts out the storage unit. We'll be ghosts. You won't even know we're there. Bianca, I started, looking around my pristine study. My velvet armchair, my stacks of sorted 19th century correspondence on the desk, the silence. I'm in the middle of a huge project for the museum. I need quiet. We'll be quiet, I swear. Her voice cracked, a sob bubbling up. Margaret, please, I'm scared for the kids. I don't have anywhere else to go. Mom and Dad are in Florida, you know that. You're my sister. You're the only one I have. She played the sister card. She played the safety of the children card. She knew exactly where the buttons were because she had installed them herself over 3 decades. 3 weeks, I whispered, the fight draining out of me along with the pain in my head. Strictly 3 weeks, Bianca. I have a deadline. Oh, thank you, thank you, thank you. She was suddenly cheerful, the tears vanishing as if a switch had been flipped. We're packing now. We'll be there in an hour. An hour, Bianca, it's late. See you soon. Love you. The line went dead. I stared at the phone. a cold knot forming in my stomach that had nothing to do with the migraine. I looked around my perfect, silent home, feeling the heavy, suffocating premonition that I had just made a terrible mistake. I didn't know it then, but I wasn't just opening my door to family. I was inviting a parasite into the host. The betrayal that was coming wasn't just about space or money. It was about the fundamental erasure of my existence in my own home. Just a few weeks is a relative term in Bianca's universe. See, in the real world, it means 21 days. In Bianca's world, it meant until I feel like leaving. The invasion began at 10:30 p.m. that night. I had expected a suitcase or two. Bianca arrived in her gargantuan SUV, the trunk bursting with trash bags filled with clothes, loose toys, and oddly, a collection of kitchen appliances. "Why did you bring a blender?" I asked, leaning against the doorframe in my robe, watching her haul a Vitamix up my porch steps. "I need my smoothies, Margaret. I can't live on your, whatever it is you eat, toast and tea." She brushed past me, smelling of expensive perfume and stress sweat. "Where do we put this stuff?" "The guest room is the second door on the right," I said, wincing as Victoria, my 8-year-old niece, sprinted past me with muddy sneakers, screeching like a banshee. Connor, 6, followed close behind, dragging a plastic sword along my newly refinished hallway wainscoting. "Careful with the walls," I snapped, the archivist in me flinching at the sound of plastic scraping wood. "They're just playing, don't be such a sourpuss," Bianca called out from the stairs. That was the first night. By the third day, the ghost's promise had evaporated. My living room, usually a minimalist space with a few curated antiques, looked like a bomb had gone off in a toy factory. Legos were embedded in the Persian rug. Juice boxes, sticky and half-empty, sat on my mahogany side tables, leaving rings because coasters were apparently a foreign concept. Then on day 4, Adam arrived. I came home from the museum, exhausted after 8 hours of cataloging water-damaged manifests, to find a strange car in the driveway, a flashy, leased sports car that I knew they couldn't afford. I walked into the kitchen to find Adam, my brother-in-law, standing in front of my open refrigerator, drinking milk directly from the carton. My organic almond milk. He lowered the carton, wiping his mouth with the back of his hand. "Hey, Marge, we're out of cheddar." "Adam," I blinked, setting my bag down. "Bianca said you were staying back to manage the storage unit." "Change of plans," he said, shrugging. He was wearing sweatpants and a t-shirt that said "Hustle Harder." "The apartment smelled too bad. Couldn't focus on the market. Needed a better headspace for the trades, you know." "So you're staying here too?" "Yeah, just until the house is ready. Bianca said it was cool." I looked at him, then at the sink piled high with dishes I hadn't dirtied. "She said it was cool, right?" "Hey, don't stress," Adam said, pointing a finger at me. "We're low maintenance. By the way, what's the Wi-Fi password? The signal in the guest room is trash." The 3 weeks Mark came and went. On day 22, I confronted Bianca. She was lounging on my velvet sofa, watching a reality show, while Victoria was painting her nails on my coffee table, without a towel underneath. "Bianca," I said, standing in front of the TV. "It's been 3 weeks. How is the mold remediation going?" She didn't even look up from her phone. Don't ask. The contractors are a nightmare. They found more stuff, pipes or something. It's going to be another 2 weeks. Maybe 3. "You said 3 weeks total," I said, trying to keep my voice steady. "I have the Preservation Society meeting here next month. I need the house back." "Margaret, relax," she groaned, finally looking at me with a look of pure annoyance. "It's not my fault. What do you want me to do? Live on the street? We're family. You have all this space and it's just you. Why are you being so selfish?" Selfish? The word was a weapon she had honed since childhood. "I'm not being selfish. I'm asking for a timeline." "When it's done, she snapped. "God, you're so uptight. This is why you're single, you know. You don't know how to flow with life." I walked away because I knew if I stayed, I would scream. I went to my study, my last refuge, and locked the door. I sat at my desk, trembling with rage. That night, I couldn't sleep. I went downstairs at 2:00 a.m. to get a glass of water. As I passed the dining room, I saw a stack of mail on the console table. Bianca had apparently forwarded her mail to my address without telling me. I picked up an envelope. It was from a bank. Urgent, final notice. I frowned. A renovation loan? But the envelope wasn't from a lender I recognized as a standard mortgage provider. It was a collection agency specialized in high-risk debt. I put it back down, my heart thumping a different rhythm now. Not anxiety, suspicion. They found more pipes, Bianca had said. The contractors are a nightmare. I went back to bed, but my mind was racing. Bianca was a terrible liar, but she was an excellent manipulator. She relied on people not checking her facts because they were too busy managing the emotional chaos she created. But I was an archivist. Checking facts was what I did. She thought she had moved into a free hotel, but she had forgotten one crucial thing. I knew how to read the fine print, and I never threw anything away. To understand why I let this happen, you have to understand the dynamic between Bianca and me. Our parents, now retired in Florida, had established the roles early. Bianca was the spirited one, the creative soul who needed protection and endless chances. I was the old soul, the one who didn't need attention because I was capable. I paid for my own college. Bianca had hers paid for, dropped out, went to design school, dropped out, and then found herself in Europe on Dad's credit card. When I bought my house, my parents said, "That's nice, dear, very sensible." When Bianca married Adam, a man whose primary talent was talking about wealth he didn't possess, my parents threw them a wedding that cost more than my down payment. "You're so strong, Margaret," my mother would say. "Bianca is fragile, she needs us." I had accepted this. I had built a life of quiet dignity, separate from their drama. But now, their drama was eating my dignity. The antagonist of this story wasn't just Bianca. It was the two-headed monster of Bianca and Adam. Adam was dangerous in a different way. Bianca was emotional entitlement. Adam was calculated parasitism. He was 36, a serial entrepreneur who hadn't held a W-2 job in 6 years. He spent his days in my guest room, or rather, my sunroom, which he had commandeered as his office, shouting into a headset about crypto swings and alpha strategies. One evening in the 5th week, I came home to find Adam drilling holes in the wall of the sunroom. "What are you doing?" I dropped my keys, staring in horror at the plaster dust coating my antique fern stand. "Mounting the monitors," Adam said, not turning around. The drill whirred loudly. "Can't trade on a laptop, Marge. Need the triple screen setup. The light in here is good for focus." "You cannot drill into that wall," I said, my voice rising. "That is original horsehair plaster. It cracks if you don't." "Relax," he said, blowing dust off a bracket. "I'll patch it when we leave, if we leave." I froze. "What did you say?" He turned, a smirk playing on his lips. It was a look of utter condescension. I said when, obviously, "But honestly, this place is huge. You barely use it. Bianca was saying just this morning how much better the kids like the school district here." My blood ran cold. "This isn't a permanent arrangement, Adam. It's a renovation." Sure, he said, turning back to his monitors. "Renovation, whatever you say." He knew something I didn't. That night, dinner was a nightmare. Bianca had ordered takeout, using my credit card, which I had foolishly left on the counter for emergencies, and the family was eating around my dining table. Victoria was wiping greasy fingers on the linen placemats. Connor was under the table, barking like a dog and biting my ankles. "Bianca," I said, pushing my food around, "we need to talk about the timeline. It's been 5 weeks." "Not now, Margaret," Bianca sighed, pouring herself a glass of my vintage red wine. "I'm having a crisis. My nail tech moved to Jersey." "I'm serious. I called your contractor." The room went dead silent. Adam stopped chewing. Bianca's glass halted halfway to her mouth. "You did what?" Bianca whispered. Her eyes narrowed, transforming her face from pretty to predatory. I called the number you gave me for the contractor. To ask about the mold remediation schedule, I said, watching them closely. And, Adam asked, his voice low. The number was disconnected, I said. And then I called the company name you mentioned. They have no record of a work order for your address. Bianca set the glass down hard. Wine sloshed onto the table. You had no right to check up on me. You don't trust your own sister. I don't trust a disconnected number, Bianca. What is going on? She stood up, her face flushing red, but it wasn't embarrassment. It was rage. She looked at Adam, then back at me, and her expression shifted. The mask of the fragile sister slipped, revealing the cold, entitled narcissist beneath. You want to know what's going on? She hissed. What's going on is that we're staying here, as long as we need to, because that's what family does. And honestly, Margaret, you owe me. I owe you, I was stunned. Mom and Dad always said you were the lucky one, she spat. You have the stable job, the house, the savings. I have a family, I have actual responsibilities. You just have dust. So, stop asking questions and just be a good sister for once in your miserable life. She stormed out of the room. Adam just sat there, smirking, and took another bite of his food. Pass the salt, would you, Marge? He asked. That was the moment. The fear evaporated, replaced by a cold, hard clarity. They weren't renovating, they were squatting, and they thought I was too weak, too sisterly, to stop them. I looked at Adam. I looked at the grease stains on my linen. Get your own salt, I said softly. I stood up and walked out. I didn't go to my room to cry. I went to my study. I locked the door. I sat down at my computer and opened a new file. If they wanted a war over history, they had picked the wrong opponent. I didn't just preserve the past, I knew how to dig it up. The morning after the salt incident, the atmosphere in the house shifted from annoyed tolerance to open hostility. It was a cold war, fought in the trenches of my hallway and kitchen. I left for work early, before the invaders stirred, but I didn't go to the museum. Instead, I drove to the county recorder's office. My hands were trembling on the steering wheel, not from fear, but from the adrenaline of a hunt. I was an archivist. I spent my life tracking down lost lineages and verifying the provenance of artifacts. Verifying the ownership status of my sister's house was child's play, yet the knot in my stomach was tight enough to choke me. The fluorescent lights of the records room hummed with a sound that usually comforted me. Today, it sounded like a warning. I filled out the request slip for the property address Bianca and Adam had supposedly been renovating. Here you go, hun, the clerk said, sliding a thin file across the counter. Public record. I opened the folder. I didn't need to read the whole thing. The bolded headers told the story in a language of devastation. Notice of default, dated 6 months ago. Notice of trustee's sale, dated 3 months ago. Auction result, reverted to beneficiary. There was no renovation. There was no mold. There were no pipes. The house had been foreclosed on. They hadn't lived there for weeks before they came to me. They had been evicted. I felt a wave of nausea. It wasn't just the lie, it was the magnitude of it. They hadn't just hit a rough patch and asked for help. They had constructed an elaborate alternate reality and moved into my home with no intention of ever leaving because they had nowhere else to go. I took a picture of the documents with my phone, my hands steady now. The nausea was replaced by a cold, hard resolve. I needed more. I called Alina, a college friend who practiced corporate law with a specialization in fraud. We met for lunch at a cafe far from my neighborhood, in case Bianca was prowling. It's worse than you think, Alina said after I showed her the photos and gave her Adam's full name and his LLCs. She tapped her tablet, turning the screen toward me. I ran a quick background check on your brother-in-law while I was waiting. Margaret, look at this. I peered at the screen. Civil lawsuits, 3 of them. He was running a private investment fund, classic Ponzi structure, Alina explained, pointing to the legal jargon. He took money from friends, neighbors, even his old college roommates, promising 200% returns on crypto futures. He lost it all. These people are suing him for fraud, but he's judgment-proof because he has no assets in his name. That's why the house was foreclosed. He leveraged it to pay off the most aggressive investors, but he ran out of rope. So he's hiding, I whispered, the realization settling over me like a shroud. He's hiding from process servers, he's hiding from creditors, and he's using my house as his bunker. Exactly, Alina said, her eyes serious. And because he's established residency, receiving mail, staying longer than 30 days, you can't just kick him out. He has tenant rights now, Margaret. If you call the police, they'll say it's a civil matter. You'd have to formally evict them, which could take 6 months. 6 months? I felt the blood drain from my face. Alina, they're destroying my home, they're destroying my peace. Alina leaned in. Then you don't use the law is slow, you use leverage. You said he's hiding from creditors, people who lost their life savings. Yes. And you said your parents are coming up for a visit soon. Next month, Bianca is already planning a welcome dinner for them. She wants to play the perfect daughter. Alina smiled, but it wasn't a nice smile. It was a shark smile. Well then, it sounds like you have all the ingredients for a very interesting dinner party. I drove home with a plan forming in the back of my mind. It was ruthless. It was calculating. It was everything I wasn't supposed to be. But as I pulled into my driveway and saw Adam's car parked diagonally across 2 spaces, blocking me out, I knew I had no choice. The turning point, the moment the Cold War went hot, happened 3 days later. It was exactly 2 months since they had arrived. I came home to find the locks on the front door didn't work. I stood there jiggling my key, confused. I rang the doorbell, no answer. I rang it again, leaning on the button. Finally, Victoria opened the door. She was wearing my silk scarf, a vintage Hermes I had framed and hung in the hallway, tied around her waist like a sash. It was knotted tight, the delicate silk crushed. "Victoria," I gasped, stepping inside. "Where is your mother?" "In the kitchen," she said, running off. "Mommy said we needed new locks for safety." I marched into the kitchen. The sight stopped me dead in my tracks. My kitchen, my pristine white marble sanctuary, was painted a violent shade of mustard yellow. Not the walls, the cabinets. Bianca was standing there with a roller, covered in paint, humming to herself. "What have you done?" My voice was a stranglehold of rage. Bianca turned, wiping sweat from her forehead. "Oh, hey, do you like it?" I felt the white was too sterile, it lacked energy. "This is Tuscan sun, it's very in right now." "You painted my cabinets," I said, my voice shaking. "You changed my locks." "Adam lost his key," she said dismissively. "And frankly, the old locks were sticky. We upgraded you, you're welcome." "Get out," I said. It wasn't a scream, it was a low, vibrating command. "Get out of my house. Now, pack your bags. I know about the foreclosure, Bianca. I know there is no renovation." Bianca froze. The roller hovered in midair. She slowly set it down on the counter, without a tray, leaving a smear of yellow paint on the marble. She turned to face me, and for the first time, I saw the full extent of her delusion. She didn't look ashamed. She looked defiant. "You snooped," she accused, narrowing her eyes. Typical Margaret, always digging into things that don't concern her. "It concerns me when you are squatting in my home," I yelled, finally losing my temper. "You lied to me. You have no house, you have no money, you are bankrupt." Adam walked in then, holding a beer. He looked from me to Bianca, gauging the temperature of the room. He didn't look worried, he looked bored. "She knows," Bianca said to him. "Figured she'd find out eventually," Adam said, taking a sip. "Look, Marge, let's be adults. We hit a snag. The market turned. We're restructuring." "You're not restructuring," I snapped. "You're hiding. I want you out tonight." Bianca laughed. It was a cruel, chilling sound. She walked over to where I stood and leaned in close. I could smell the wine on her breath. "We aren't going anywhere," she said softly. "We've been here 60 days. We get mail here. The kids are enrolled in the school district here as of yesterday. Legally, this is our residence." She straightened up, crossing her arms. And morally, you have plenty of money, you have a 4-bedroom house for one person. It's grotesque. We are family. And since Mom and Dad are coming in 2 weeks, I don't think you're going to do anything. Unless you want to explain to them why you kicked your sister and her innocent children onto the street. This is my house, I stammered, feeling the walls closing in. Bianca looked me dead in the eye, a smirk curling her lips. Not anymore, Margaret. We live here. We're staying. This is my house now. You'll adjust. She picked up the roller again. Now move. You're blocking the light. I need to finish this coat before dinner. I stood there, paralyzed by the sheer weight of her audacity. She truly believed it. She believed her need trumped my ownership. She believed my compliance was a natural resource she could mine forever. I turned and walked away. I didn't go to my room. I went to the garage, got a spare key I had hidden in a magnetic box, and let myself into my study. I sat in the dark, breathing heavily. You'll adjust. Okay, Bianca, I whispered to the empty room. I'll adjust. I pulled out my phone and dialed Alina. Do it, I said. Help me draft the invitations. The next 2 weeks were a master class in psychological warfare. They thought they had broken me. They thought my silence was submission. I stopped complaining. I stopped asking them to clean up. When I came home to find Adam had rearranged the living room furniture to create a VR gaming zone, I just stepped over the cables and smiled. Looks fun, I said. Adam looked suspicious for a second, then shrugged. Yeah, it's cool. Bianca took my surrender as a victory. She began planning the welcome home dinner for our parents with a fervor that was almost manic. She wasn't just planning a dinner, she was planning a coronation. She invited not just Mom and Dad, but 2 of her old high school friends she wanted to impress, and unbeknownst to me until I saw the list, a local interior designer she was trying to court for a partnership. I'm going to launch my lifestyle brand, she told me over breakfast, eating my imported granola. This dinner is the kickoff. I want everyone to see how I've transformed the space. I'm going to tell Mom and Dad that we're co-living now, that we're pooling resources. They'll be so proud of us for being so close. That sounds wonderful, Bianca, I said, sipping my tea. I'd love to help with the guest list. Make sure we have a full house. The more the merrier, right? Really? She looked surprised. Said, sure, just don't invite any of your boring museum friends. I want cool people, potential investors for Adam. Oh, I know exactly who to invite for Adam, I said. I've been looking into his work. I think I can find some people who are very interested in what he's doing. Adam perked up from his laptop. Serious, crypto guys. I know people who appreciate financial creativity, I said carefully. I spent the next week playing the role of the dutiful assistant. I helped Bianca polish the silver. I helped her choose the menu. And every night, locked in my study, I was coordinating the real guest list. I didn't just contact the creditors Alina had found. I went deeper. I used my archival skills to trace the digital footprint of Adam's investors. I found a forum where they discussed the crypto kingpin who had ghosted them. I found a man named Mr. Henderson, a retired mechanic who had lost his entire pension to Adam. I found a woman named Sarah, a single mother who had loaned Adam her savings for a guaranteed bridge loan. I reached out to them. I didn't tell them I was his sister-in-law. I told them I was a concerned party hosting a gathering where Adam would be present to discuss his new ventures. I sent them formal digital invitations. You are cordially invited to an exclusive investment update with Adam last name. Location, my address. Date, Saturday, 7:00 p.m. They all RSVP'd within the hour. The tension in the house was palpable, but only I could feel the electricity of the coming storm. Bianca was floating on a cloud of delusion. She had spent the last of her money, or perhaps credit she had opened in my name. I'd have to check that later, on a new dress and catering. On the morning of the party, our parents arrived from Florida. Oh, look at you two, my mother gushed, hugging Bianca and then giving me a polite pat on the arm. Living together, it's just like when you were little. I always knew you'd need each other. It's great, Mom, Bianca beamed, linking her arm through mine. I felt my skin crawl. Margaret has been so, adjusting. We're really making this house a home together. Adam is doing so well, my father boomed, clapping Adam on the back. I hear you're managing a big portfolio now. Huge, Dad, huge, Adam lied, puffing out his chest. Actually, I'm expecting some potential partners tonight, big money players. Is that so? I interjected, smiling sweetly. Yes, Adam, I believe they are very eager to see you. Adam frowned slightly, a flicker of doubt crossing his eyes, but it was gone in an instant. He was too arrogant to see the trap. The caterers arrived at 5:00 p.m. The house looked beautiful, despite the mustard cabinets. Bianca had staged it perfectly. She had even moved my personal photos off the mantel and replaced them with pictures of her and Adam. At 6:45 p.m., the doorbell rang. That must be the designer, Bianca squealed. Margaret, get the door, I need to fluff the pillows. I walked to the door. My heart was hammering against my ribs like a trapped bird. This was it, the nuclear option. I opened the door. Standing on my porch wasn't a designer. It was a group of 6 people. They were dressed in a mix of casual and business attire, but they all wore the same expression: grim, angry determination. Mr. Henderson was in the front, holding a thick envelope. Is he here? He asked, his voice gravelly. Is Adam here? I stepped back, opening the door wide. Right this way, I said. He's in the living room with the champagne. The silence that followed my return to the living room was heavy, confused, and delicious. I walked in first, my head held high, the group of 6 strangers trailing behind me like a grim jury. The scene in the living room was a perfect tableau of unearned arrogance. Bianca was perched on the arm of the sofa, holding a flute of champagne, laughing at something the interior designer had said. Adam was standing near the fireplace, one hand in his pocket, looking every inch the successful financier he pretended to be. My parents were smiling, basking in the illusion of their children's success. Margaret, Bianca asked, her smile faltering as she saw the entourage. She slid off the sofa, smoothing her dress. Who are these people? I thought you said they were investors. They are investors, I said, my voice calm, projecting to the back of the room. They invested in Adam, and I thought they deserved to see where their money went. Adam turned, his face draining of color instantly. He recognized them. Of course he did. You don't forget the faces of the people you've ruined. Mr. Henderson, Adam stammered, taking a step back, nearly knocking over a vase. I wasn't expecting you. We have an appointment next week, don't we? Mr. Henderson, a man in his 60s with calloused hands and a face etched with months of sleepless nights, stepped forward. He didn't look at the champagne. He looked at the expensive suit Adam was wearing. Next week, Mr. Henderson spat. You stopped answering my calls 3 months ago, Adam. You told me my money was in a secure lockbox. You told me the market was just correcting. He gestured around the room, at the silk curtains, the catered food, the opulent setting. Is this the lockbox? Is this where my pension went? Into your wife's party. Now, hold on, my father said, stepping forward, his voice booming with protective authority. Who are you people? You can't just barge into a private residence and accuse my son-in-law of. He's not accusing him of anything, Dad, I interrupted, walking over to the coffee table. I carried a thick file folder, the result of my archival project. I dropped it onto the table with a heavy, final thud. It's not an accusation, I continued, opening the folder. It's a ledger. Mr. Henderson gave Adam $40,000. Sarah, standing there in the back, gave him $15,000. The total count from the people in this room is nearly $200,000. Margaret, shut up, Bianca shrieked, rushing toward me. You're ruining everything. Get them out. This is my house, and I order them to leave. No, Bianca, I said, catching her wrist before she could grab the file. That's the other lie. This isn't your house. I pulled out the foreclosure documents I had retrieved from the county office. enlarged and printed on high-contrast paper. I held them up for my parents to see. "Mom, Dad," I said, looking at them. "Bianca didn't renovate her kitchen. There is no mold, there is no contractor. They haven't owned that house for 6 months. They were evicted. They are destitute." My mother gasped, her hand flying to her mouth. "What, Bianca, is this true?" Bianca looked around wildly, her eyes darting from Adam to me to the guests. It's complicated. We had a cash flow issue. Margaret is twisting it. She's jealous. She's always been jealous." "Jealous?" I laughed, a cold, sharp sound that silenced the room. "Jealous of what? The fraud? The lies? The fact that you are squatting in my home, terrorizing me, painting my cabinets, and telling me I have to adjust to you stealing my life." I turned to Adam. He was cornered by Mr. Henderson and 2 other men near the fireplace. He looked small. He looked pathetic. I can fix this," Adam squeaked. "I have a new algorithm. It's about to pop. I just need a little more time." "You don't have time," Sarah said, stepping forward. She was shaking, tears in her eyes. "I needed that money for my son's tuition, Adam. You promised me it was safe." "And it is. It's tied up," Adam lied, desperate. "It's gone," I said, pulling a bank statement from the file. I tracked the wallets. "You transferred the funds to offshore gambling sites and luxury car leases. It's all here, Adam. I traced every penny. That's what I do. I preserve history. And your history is nothing but theft." The room seemed to shrink. The air was sucked out of it. My father picked up the foreclosure notice, his hands trembling. He read it, then looked at Adam with a look of pure disgust I had never seen him direct at family. "You lied to us," my father said, his voice quiet and dangerous. "You told me you were managing a portfolio. You told me you were providing for my daughter." "I am," Adam pleaded. "I'm trying." "You're a thief," my father said. Bianca tried one last, desperate Hail Mary. She turned to me, her face contorted into a mask of pure entitlement. "Fine," she yelled. "So we have money problems. That's why family helps family. You have plenty, Margaret. You can pay them off. You can help us. Why do you have to be so cruel?" "Cruel?" I stepped closer to her. "You told me 2 weeks ago, this is my house now, you'll adjust. You tried to erase me in my own home. You treated me like a servant. You stole my peace. You stole my sanctuary." I pointed to the door. "The adjustment period is over, Bianca. The police have been notified. Elena, my lawyer, is outside with the officers right now. These people," I gestured to the victims, "are here to identify Adam for the police report." "Police?" Bianca whispered, the color finally draining from her face. "You have 10 minutes to pack your bags," I said. "Whatever you can't carry goes on the curb. If you are not out of my house in 10 minutes, you will be escorted out in handcuffs for trespassing." "Mom," Bianca wailed, turning to our mother. "Do something, she's kicking us out." My mother looked at Bianca. She looked at the mustard-yellow cabinets visible through the kitchen doorway. She looked at the devastation her golden child had wrought. "10 minutes seems generous, Bianca," my mother said softly. "I suggest you start packing." The chaos that followed was swift and total. The party dissolved into a crime scene investigation. Adam was not given 10 minutes. The officers arrived as I finished speaking, and Cause Mr. Henderson had already filed a preliminary report that I had helped him expedite earlier that day. They had probable cause. They escorted Adam out in cuffs as he screamed about sovereign citizenship and illegal detention. Bianca, hysterical and sobbing, was left to shove clothes into garbage bags. My parents didn't lift a finger to help her. For the first time in their lives, they saw her not as the victim, but as the villain. My father sat in my armchair, head in his hands, muttering, I didn't know. My mother stood in the hallway, watching Bianca drag a suitcase down the stairs, scraping the wall as she went. "Where will we go?" Bianca screamed at me as she reached the bottom step. "We have nowhere. You're making your niece and nephew homeless." "No," I said calmly. "You made them homeless 6 months ago when you stopped paying your mortgage. Mom and Dad have agreed to take the children to Florida for a few months until you get a job and a stable apartment. But you're on your own." "I hate you," she hissed, her face inches from mine. "I will never forgive you for this." "I can live with that," I replied. "Just make sure you leave my keys on the table." When the door finally closed behind her, the silence that rushed back into the house was different. It wasn't the empty silence of loneliness. It was the heavy, cleansing silence of a storm that had passed. The next few weeks were a blur of restoration. I hired a professional painter the very next day. Watching the Tuscan sun, yellow disappear under a coat of primer, was the most satisfying visual experience of my life. I had the locks changed again, this time to high-security electronic ones. I had the carpets deep cleaned to remove the stains of Adam's gaming zone. My relationship with my parents shifted fundamentally. The blinders had been ripped off. They stayed for a week to help me actually clean, scrubbing floors, and patching the holes Adam had drilled. One evening, as we sat in the newly restored living room, my mother reached out and took my hand. "We let you down," she said, her voice thick with emotion. We thought you were the strong one, so we didn't have to worry about you. We thought Bianca needed us more. We enabled her. We created a monster." "You did," I said gently, "but you also raised a survivor. I'm okay, Mom." "I'm so proud of you, Margaret," my father added, looking around the room. "You protected yourself. You protected this house. You have a backbone of steel." It was the first time I felt seen by them. Not as the sensible one, but as the formidable one. Bianca is currently living in a studio apartment 3 towns over, working as a receptionist at a dental office, a job my father insisted she take if she wanted any help with legal fees for Adam. Adam is awaiting trial. The fraud case against him is watertight, thanks to the dossier I compiled. He's looking at 5 to 7 years. As for me, I am sitting in my study. The grandfather clock is ticking, a steady, rhythmic heartbeat. The light is filtering through the clean windows, illuminating the dust motes dancing in the air. My desk is organized. My home is silent. I open my journal and pick up my pen. I am an archivist. I preserve what matters. And I have finally learned that the most important thing to preserve is my own peace. I take a deep breath, inhaling the scent of old paper and lemon polish. I have adjusted, and it is perfect,